At some point, unfortunately, white people, and I count myself among them, will become a minority and will probably go extinct.
We are a worldwide minority already, which is why I take the radical stance that the English have the right to exist. We have the right to our own homelands. Everyone agrees on that, right?
Yeah,
that's the basis.
I think so. I think so.
I think that's the baseline.
It depends what you mean by English. That's the issue. No,
we already disagree on the meaning of English. So there's that. Okay, but ultimately, with the direction that the country's going, the future of our people is at stake. The most radical stance that we have to take to fix this is okay with me. I don't care what we have to do. I don't care who gets caught in the crossfires. I don't care how much damage gets done along the way, as long as the future of my people is secured. That's my line, and that's the hill I'm dying on. You may disagree with the approach, you may disagree with the argument. I generally don't care.
What's up, guys? We're going to look at the second half of the interview of Stephen Laws by Andrew Gold. Andrew is going to make some pretty outrageous claims in this clip. It's almost unbelievable when you hear the words coming out of his mouth. And that opening clip gives you a pretty good idea of what Andrew Gold is all about. Andrew Gold is going to insist that he is one of us. He's going to insist that he's a member of our group. But then he's going to take a left turn and just casually tell us that not only are we going to go extinct, but that it's inevitable and we just shouldn't worry about it. We should just sit back and let it happen. Plot twist, Stephen Laws disagrees. We'll get into the clip now and you can see just what kind of character each one of these men possesses.
There aren't enough people who simply agree with all of your causes. It's never going to work. That's the point. And there are a lot of people who will follow Tommy.
At the moment, no. But there was a lot of people that wouldn't move towards Tommy's position when he first started out. And now look, everyone's anti-Muslim and so forth. So to say it's not going to happen is ridiculous.
Yeah, I can't imagine it happening.
I know you can't, because it would mean you'd leave the country. You can't envision that.
You know what? It's funny you say that, because when I first started thinking about this idea, it didn't even occur to me that it might be Jews as well. I just thought black people from various other places, and that horrified me in itself. It horrifies me.
I don't discriminate. I don't discriminate on who I'm removing. I'm not. This is something like this is the thing. Like, I'm not going right just because you're black. All blacks have got to go. Everyone else is fine. Or all Indians have got to go. Would you test some
people?
No.
So how would you know?
What do you mean? How would you know?
Okay, so my name's Gold. That's how you know I'm Jewish. There's plenty of people who I know who are Jewish who do not have Jewish names. You wouldn't know they're not Jewish. What would you do?
There'll be records.
There'll be records. No, not always.
Well, mostly. They will mostly be records.
Christopher Hitchens, he didn't know he was Jewish until he was in his 50s or something, and he found out that his mum had hid that she was Jewish.
Yeah.
Right? What would we do with Hitchens? Would he be kicked out?
Yeah.
This is mental. And was he
total remigration? Everyone
kicked
has to
out
go
after he found out? How would you have found out? His mum had hidden it his whole life.
Total remigration is my line, right?
Yeah, but you won't know.
And it's complicated. It's complicated. Yes, and there would be an awful lot of work and research that would have to go in to find out who would have to be removed and so forth. And the easiest way to do this is medical records.
Right.
That's the easiest way to go.
Medical records.
Yeah, medical records, because everyone's information already stored. There's more information on medical records than there are on immigration data or your national insurance and so forth.
You have no worries about the kind of authoritarianism required by a government that would have to be able to look into everybody's medical records and check exactly their ethnicity makeup.
The extreme position is our people being demographically replaced in our homeland. Anything we have to do to reverse that is okay with me.
So how much English, and by that I suppose you mean Anglo-Saxon and Celtic and Norman blood, how do they have to have in them to stay?
I wouldn't do it down to percentage.
Then what?
So I'd do it from your parents and their parents and their parents. And
what if their parents have 60% and their grandparents have got 50 and 80 and all that?
So this is the thing. Like when people start asking these questions, they're coming down more radical than I am. You're coming from a far more radical approach than what I even present. Because you're saying, right, let's go down the argument of let's find this percentage and let's do this and let's do that. And I'm saying let's just go through from their parents and their parents and their parents.
But what does that mean?
What does that mean?
Everyone knows anything.
Yes, it does.
What are their parents? Okay, let's imagine I think all my life I'm pure English. I'm Anglo-Saxon.
Yeah, but you know you're not.
Imagine it. Okay, my name's Bob and I'm from Manchester and blah, blah, whatever.
Yeah.
And I find out that actually my parents, we did an ethnicity test on them and they're one of them's 50% English and actually 60% Irish, or 50% Irish, sorry. And one of them's got 20% from Spain or some such thing. How do you work all of this out?
So that person would be fine. First off, they're all European. So that's not an issue to me.
Okay, so European's fine.
Overall, I wouldn't want millions of Germans.
So you are
I wouldn't
fine
want.
with
I wouldn't want
Ashkenazi
millions.
Jews?
No.
But they're European.
I would argue they're not.
No, you can't argue they're not. They are.
I don't believe you're European.
Why not?
Same way that I wouldn't class Albanians as European.
Okay, but Ashkenazi Jews are European.
Not to me.
So here we go. We got, and you sort of, when you talk about this, you get an aggressive look in your eye.
I don't mean it aggressively. I'm just answering you bluntly.
I've noticed it a few times.
Same...
You shake your leg and get aggressive when we talk about Jews being European or whatever. There's clearly a very strong emotion in you, and I get it, and I get that these things are scary.
You keep using the scary argument as if, like, what do you mean by scary?
I think it makes you very angry because you're scared and defensive. It's scary. Well, look, it is scary not just for you. It's scary for me seeing what's happening to this country, and it can sometimes lead to us to react in very emotional ways instead of actually looking at hard, cold facts. All I'm hearing is emotion, and you cannot have someone just run totally on emotion, and that's why people are not following you enough, and that's why they won't. There has to be some rationalization. There has to be some reason involved, some logic.
All your logic and argument comes back to is Jews can stay in England. That's always your position. That's all you care about.
It's the canary in the coal mine of your ridiculous philosophy.
No, but all I'm saying is your position is Jews can stay in England. Jews are English. Jews this, Jews that. That's your position.
Let me add, blacks can stay in England.
We've been here for about 40 minutes, and for a half hour of it, we've been talking about Jews.
Hang on, I've talked about John Barnes. I've talked about how ridiculous it is to get rid of Ian
briefly,
Wright.
But mostly we've been. No, but listen, we've been here talking about Jews for about half hour, and it's all been inherently biased on your part because you are Jewish. You want Jewish people to remain in this country.
It's not biased on my part. I'm just giving
biased.
You facts.
You're Jewish.
I gave you facts about the concentration camp, the logs that the Nazis kept, and you're coming back with just complete bananas.
No, you're coming back with emotional nonsense that
I'm giving
Jews
you
should
stats.
remain in the country.
I don't feel emotional. I'm not shaking my leg and jumping around.
I just have a twitch. That's all it is.
The twitch only comes up when Jews are mentioned. You didn't twitch at all the other times. So I think there's an issue there, and it's emotional.
No, because what you're trying to do is paint a narrative of me, is to create that what I'm saying is inherently retarded, and the position you're going to present is never going to happen because this and this and this. But in reality, you haven't actually presented an argument why it's not going to happen other than the English people will not agree on it. And you can't say that the English people will ever not agree on that position because you cannot define what's going to happen in the future. You have no control over that.
Okay, fine. I do think you're right. I think it is inherently retarded. And I think you don't have the facts. And
see, whereas really I would argue that the future of my people, the line I take, the position I want for my future, and my children's future and their children's future is not retarded. And just because you're Jewish and you disagree with the stance I'm taking,
I think you focus too much on ethnicity instead of culture.
And I would argue that you focus too much on culture. Where does
true.
culture come from?
Sometimes from ethnicity, yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah, but then...
Yeah, so Stephen is 100% correct. Andrew is trying to paint him as being foolish in an attempt to preclude anyone else from even listening to the message that Andrew's saying. So rather than combat the ideas that Andrew's putting forward, he's just making a typical ad hominem attack. We've seen this over and over again with Nick Fuentes. We saw it with Dan Bilzerian in another video that I reacted to recently. So this is really par for the course for propaganda in general. Don't engage in the ideas that someone's discussing. Attack the person instead in hopes that people won't even listen to those ideas in the first place.
You have to judge people based on actions, I think.
Yeah, but then if you're judging everyone on actions, that's how rape gangs happen. That's how people get murdered. That's how Southport happens.
If you judge just on ethnicity or race and not culture,
that prevents that.
That starts the Holocaust, for example. So it makes sense for you.
You say that starts the Holocaust,
that starts
right?
slavery.
The Holocaust, for me, is what's happening to the British people. We're being demographically replaced in our homeland. That is a Holocaust to me. You might not like me using that term.
I don't mind.
My people are being raped.
Hang on, I don't care.
Okay, well, sorry.
I'm not emotional.
I'm not trying to put words into your mouth.
Yeah. You use any words you want. I hate that kind of shrill.
Well, that's good, that's good to know then. Fair enough.
Yeah,
right? I won't. But what I'm saying is,
still stupid what you're saying.
To me, it's a Holocaust because my people are being demographically replaced. We're being raped. We're being murdered. We're being pillaged. Okay, so to me, this is my Holocaust. So when people bring up the issues of the Holocaust in the past and stuff, it's not something I even really talk about, but I just generally don't care.
Yeah.
Because it's not my concern right now. That's happened over around 90 years ago. And to me, I'm in the present. And in the present at the moment.
When you say things like that about the numbers, it doesn't help your argument because it makes you just look like a nutter.
I was asked, do I question, do I believe the numbers by Liam? And I said no. That was it. That was it. You're making a whole thing on a throwaway comment, which I generally do not trust the narrative. I don't think that the lampshades and the soaps and stuff is true.
Is it just I don't know. I genuinely don't know.
No, exactly. So this is my point.
Only because I don't know enough about that aspect of it.
So I don't trust the narrative at all. And the people that are presenting this in the Hollywood films that push these arguments and stuff, it's just nonsense.
Well, the Hollywood films are based on anecdotes of real people. I have met people.
It's dramatized. Everything's dramatized.
So what are you? But this is what I don't get when people say, like, I don't trust the now, I don't trust all that. What is the point you were trying to make? That Hitler should probably have done what he did anyway, but I don't believe he did it. Like, why does it matter?
I was asked if I'd gassed a Jew with Liam. I said no. I'm not going to gas people. I don't want to kill anyone.
Yeah.
I just want people to get out of my country.
Yeah.
I'm not advocating a mass slaughter of people. I don't think that's the approach that anyone should advocate for.
Can you see how someone like just some blind? It's not fair that Ian Wright's always mentioned, but if someone like
he
that,
probably gets fed up with it.
I know, but everyone just loves that guy, apart from Ennio Luco, right? But I don't know if you followed that. But Ian Wright, I don't know where his parents are from. Let's say a black guy who does have grandparents in this country, great grandparents in this country. They're just proper English. They don't speak some other language from some other place. They don't know some. How can you make that person go and live in the middle of nowhere when these are lovely, nice people?
Very easily. I don't get caught up in the emotional nonsense.
But do you have empathy? Do you have empathy?
I feel like I feel these people are victims of immigration, and it's not nice that they're going to have to be removed from the homeland. And a lot of people have, for instance, built their lives here. Some of them are loved by the population and so forth. Others are not. But that's irrelevant. The future of my people comes first. I'm not getting caught up in the emotional nonsense of he's a nice one or he's a nice one. It doesn't mean anything to me. And that's my personal opinion. You may not agree with it.
I think it should do. I think it should.
I just generally don't care. I've had enough now. I've seen the rapes. I've seen the murders. I've seen the demographic replacement of my people, and I've had enough. I want everyone gone. And until that's happened, that's always going to be my position. You can call it radical. You can call it unrealistic. You already have. But to me, it's not. That's my position. And you may find it harsh. You may think it's unapologetic, and it is a little bit. But at the end of the day, what's worse is my people becoming a minority in our homeland, having no control over our destiny, having no control over our future. And then that's it. There's no England. Without the English, there's no England. And that's the direction we're heading. And the only way to reverse this, because you've already said yourself that it's probably beyond the point of being reversed, in other words, not those words exactly, but the only way to reverse this is a radical approach. It's going to have to be firm, it's going to have to be harsh, and it's going to have to be radical. And it's the only way to reverse this.
The very idea that Andrew presents is absolutely absurd. His essential premise is, don't you feel bad for the inconvenience? Isn't it mean to send an entire family back to their homeland instead of just allowing yourself to go extinct? The opening clip that you saw is from later on in this interview, but it shows that he is already of the mindset that the English people are going to go extinct and that is a worthy sacrifice for whatever this altar of diversity is. And so the question he's asking basically boils down to this. Hey, why aren't you willing to just let your own people go extinct instead of being mean to some families made up of the people who are actively causing you to go extinct? You're supposed to go extinct, and you're supposed to like the people who are making you go extinct. Just think about that. It truly is the height of absurdity when you cut back the emotional nature of his language and apply it within the proper context, which is that England is the ancestral birthplace where this ethnic group evolved. Other people from all over the planet have invaded this tiny little island, and this man is arguing that the people who evolved there should accept their own extinction rather than simply feeling bad about pushing people out who are causing their extinction. It's complete absurdity. It makes no sense at all. But you need to establish some context in the first place, and that's difficult when it's being presented in this frame of reference. Bear in mind, as always, the state-up inversion. The British are expected to respect the sanctity of the homeland of all of these other people who are now living in their homeland, in the homeland of the British. If the British were to move to the homeland of the Pakistanis or anyone else, they would be called colonizers, they would be called settlers, and they would be called invaders. And bear one more thing in mind. Andrew's people, they moved to another land, and they didn't just offer to kindly move those people out. They just flattened it to rubble. What are your thoughts on this? Are you seeing the hypocrisy? Are you seeing the double standard? Are you seeing the asymmetrical set of expectations that demands one set of values and standards from the British and a completely reciprocal set of standards and values from all of the non-British who have settled on their tiny island? Leave a comment below and share your thoughts on it.
It's wrong.
But presumably you don't like collective punishment when it's applied to white people, right? So it's this idea that, like, because men commit many more, all the rapes, for example, that men are all a bunch of rapists, that kind of thing. Why is it okay? And also that white people have had an advantage, all those kinds of things, which I think are ridiculous in this woke world that we live in. Why is it okay to then apply collective punishment to other ethnicities?
Because every nation should be able to protect their own. So the collective punishment, if, like, for instance, let's use the argument Pakistanis. Overwhelmingly, the majority of of rape gangs are Pakistanis. Most people would agree with that, right?
Yeah, the pro rata, yeah.
Yeah. So to use the argument that all Pakistanis should leave because of rape gangs, I don't think that's an extreme position. What those people have done to our people since they've been in the country, and this isn't just a recent phenomenon, this has been going on since the 60s, the 50s, like since they first arrived in our country. So collective punishment on those as a people, yes, that should happen. There are tens of thousands of raped children that their community kept silent on. They didn't address the situation. They didn't try to bring these people to justice. They just swept it all under the rug. Of course, some of our people helped them as well, and they should be, personally, I would hang them, but they should spend the rest of their life in jail under the current system. So those
you'll get me with the Islam stuff. Because I fundamentally...
Yeah, you guys are obviously more anti-Islam than I am, I suppose, because obviously the situations around your history.
To be Jews, yeah.
Yeah. So, but ultimately, I don't focus just on the Islam. Of course, yeah, They are a huge problem, but so are the African gangs in London. Like the two recent terrorist attacks, the train and... I can't remember off the top of my head now.
Sure.
Yeah, but like the two recent attacks, they were Africans. They were not Islamics. They were not even like religious themselves. They may even be Christian.
Yeah, we have a problem. We do have an issue, and this is what I try to address on Heretics every week. I think there's a difference in how we feel it's still not authoritarian to deal with this. And I would say, look, if we're having a lot of problem with the Pakistani Muslim community, the way to do it is to deport any criminals involved in any of this, absolutely, and to stop having more immigration from those places.
So, I'll just take it back to the collective punishment. The Palestinians, Hamas who attacked Israel. Do you think the collective punishment on Palestine is justified?
No, not really, but it's a war. That's war, unfortunately.
Yes, but it is collective punishment though, isn't it? You was attacked on October the 7th.
Yeah.
And
this is not an easy. These are difficult philosophical questions.
So this is the thing. Like, your people are collectively punishing people right now, but me suggesting it is about in the UK is all of a sudden
it's at war with a different nation, and
doesn't
and
matter.
Rules, yeah, of course it does. Of course it does.
It's not a fair war. It's not a fair war at all. You're bombing children.
Unfortunately, that's happened, and that's Hamas's fault for putting them in the way of the bombs. What do you do with that?
So you're okay. Yeah, but this is the thing. You're okay with collective punishment.
I don't think I am, but it's an interesting point. I think it's really hard to get to those. What do you do with that? What
exactly.
Do you do when it's a war?
So from the Israeli perspective, whether I agree or disagree is irrelevant.
Well, do you agree with that?
No. I don't think you should be bombing children like you are. You're flattening their country. Of course, you can
Well,
retaliate.
you
can retaliate when you're attacked, right?
Yeah. Well, they've done that 100 times, and they keep getting attacked.
And now you've flattened their homeland, and there are loads of dead children.
Unfortunately, that's what's happened. I mean, Israel pulled out of Gaza 20 years ago and just got constantly attacked by Palestine.
But Israel's also expanded multiple times since it's founded.
It only expanded after being attacked, and that was to take advantageous positions, such as on mountains, so you can see where you're being attacked from. Doesn't mean that the settlers haven't been wrong. Many of the settlers who have moved into these places. Israel's probably one of the most complicated geopolitical issues in the world. So.
And this is the trick. This is the real subversion. England is also at war. Britain is also at war. In this case, it is at war with its own government. Its own government was already conquered, and then it kicked open the borders and let invaders in to destroy the nation. The state was taken over by a fifth column, and now the state is conquering the nation that built a state in the first place. So Britain is already at war, and thus it is not collective punishment. The same standards that he's using to justify action by his tribe in their homeland, those standards apply in Britain exactly in parallel. Britain is also at war. That subtle shift in perspective is all you need to understand why Stephen's ideas are perfectly rational. There's two things that you need from the state that define the state's role as being in service to the nation. You need the state to defend your borders and prevent outsiders from coming in and establishing their own monopoly on violence. And you need the state to prevent chaos from bubbling up from within. You need the state to prevent organized criminal networks from creating their own monopoly on violence. What I just described is a military in the former example, and most ideally, a decentralized police force with local sheriffs and local posses in the latter case. The British state has violated both of those defining features and is categorically the enemy of the nation.
The same on
What
Dresden.
happened to October 7th, right?
Yeah.
Led to you attacking them, right?
Not me attacking
No,
them.
but your people, okay?
I don't see them as my people because I don't think ethnically the same way as you do.
Okay, well, that's how I see it. So
Okay.
I'll just use that as a...
It led to those people attacking.
Yeah, it led to those people attacking them, right?
To root out Hamas.
And how many of those terror attacks have happened in the UK?
No, well, look, absolutely.
And are we not justified to go, right, these immigrants have done too much damage in our country now, I think it's time they leave? We're not sitting here, actually, I think it's time we go and flatten their homeland and destroy all of their kids. No, we're just saying, let's just send them home. We're not even going that far.
Yeah, but for many of them, there isn't a home. That's the point.
There is a home, though.
So I get the feeling, I get wanting to do that. I understand.
Where's there not a home
that.
for someone to go to?
Because there isn't. Those kids only ever knew England.
It doesn't matter.
Their parents often only knew England.
It doesn't
Their
matter.
grandparents knew England.
It doesn't matter. It doesn't matter.
But I think you struggle to empathise with people like that. I know plenty of people like that. Well, I suppose myself included, though I never even thought I was part of that discussion. But so many people like that who are just like, the idea of sending them to where? Some random country?
So here's the crazy thing.
Yeah.
Everyone's like, it's so absurd to send this person to a country they've never been to. But the idea of bringing them here to a country they've never been to is fine.
But they didn't. They were born here, the ones we're talking about.
Yeah, but their parents or their grandparents brought them over.
Yeah.
And they came to a country that they'd never been to before.
Yeah.
And it's abhorrent. How can they go to a country they've never been to?
As happened with the Normans, as happens with Celts and Anglo-Saxons.
So using this argument that they've never been in that land before is ridiculous.
That they're using this argument they've never been here before. Oh, in the other land. Yeah, but they moved here because they wanted to move here.
Yeah, but we didn't want them here. It was against our will. No British people have ever, other than the small minority that work in these NGO factions and stuff, no British people have asked for more immigrants. No British people have ever asked for any of this. It's been forced upon us.
Many British people have asked for it. Loads and loads and loads of British people. These are the people that we complain about every day. Come on.
Small minority groups.
Not small minorities, there's loads of them.
The overwhelming majority of the English people have never ever asked for more immigration. They don't want it. If they was given the choice to ask without any consequences, and it was anonymously, the overwhelming majority would say they want them gone.
Yeah, there's been too much immigration, unfortunately. I think the overwhelming majority would say they wouldn't want to push people out who were born here. We know that for a fact.
I'd say the position most people would be at is they would want to stop immigration at the moment, deport all the illegals and foreign criminals, and maybe some of the dangerous ones that they don't trust, probably like all the Muslims and stuff, right? That's about as far as the public would go at the moment.
Push out dangerous people based on their actions.
At the moment.
That's a huge jump.
At the moment.
A jump to then just getting innocent people and kicking them out. I would like to think that the British people will never do that.
Yeah, you'd like to think that.
Yeah.
Because it's self-interest for you,
and because there's no evidence to show that that otherwise you would have loads of support. You're a well-spoken person. You're quite bright. You've got Twitter and all that. You should have more people following you than Tommy Robinson. If there was any chance of this happening, they're not into it. They don't want it.
That's an outright lie, and Andrew knows it. Your reach on social media is not the result of a primary function that you're providing ideas that other people want to hear. Your reach on social media is the result of a primary function where someone in a corporate boardroom, out of sight and unaccountable to everyone else, looks at your message and says, okay, I want to spread this message, or okay, I want to prevent this message from spreading. Social media is a centrally controlled system specifically designed not just to allow for censorship, but to prevent anyone who uses social media from knowing who the agents are that are executing the censorship in the first place. Andrew is fully aware of this. This is not his first rodeo. All of us know what it means to be shadow banned.
I am living out the Zionist dream. I have been at Meta for almost 9 years. We banned content claiming Zionists run the world or control the media.
And
so if you was in power, you would just change the culture?
I would incentivize British people, whatever that exactly means. We'd have to nail that down. But people from here who love this country to have more children, so that there isn't this constant stress on the economy whereby people think, I think wrongly, we have to bring in immigrants from other countries to support it. I would try and make it more acceptable for Christianity to thrive in this country as well. Deport illegal immigrants, stop the boats, obviously, stop putting people in these kinds of hotels, take away the ECHR as well, so that we can actually have the power to do some of these things. Loads of quite drastic measures that I think would rapidly change what's going on. But
what you've just presented there would not reverse the demographic decline, would still become a minority in our homeland.
At some point, unfortunately, white people, and I count myself among them, will become a minority and will probably go extinct.
We are a worldwide minority already, which is why I take the radical stance that the English have the right to exist.
Real quick, a not so fun fact: in the year 1900, white people, so not just English, but white people, were about 30% of the global population, and now we are a little bit more than 7% of the global population. So that's no exaggeration, and that is not hyperbole, what he just said.
We have the right to our own homelands. Everyone agrees on that, right?
Yeah.
That's the basis
I
line.
I think so.
I think that's the baseline.
It depends what you mean by English. That's the issue. No,
we already disagree on the meaning of English. So there's that. Okay, but ultimately, with the direction that the country's going, the future of our people is at stake. The most radical stance that we have to take to fix this is okay with me. I don't care what we have to do. I don't care who gets caught in the crossfires. I don't care how much damage gets done along the way, as long as the future of my people is secured. That's my line. And that's the hill I'm dying on. You may disagree with the approach, you may disagree with the argument. I generally don't care. And I don't mean that horribly. I mean, you've been polite enough to me since I've come on and so forth, but I just generally don't care. England belongs to the English. I want my country back, and I will die on that hill fighting for it. Yeah.
Look, I've got sympathy for that, but as I said, without wanting to sound repetitive, I don't think you can define English easily enough. I think it's too difficult to do. It's too difficult to implement that. You didn't give me what I think would be a satisfying response to how we work out if someone's parents are sufficiently English and if their grandparents are sufficiently English. I think it's unworkable. And so if you actually want to affect change instead of wanting to look like you're affecting change, as the woke do, there's the horseshoe theory, and I feel like your side and their side want to look good to their people.
That's not the horseshoe theory. The horseshoe theory is that the political left and the political right are finding common ground over a certain event going on in the Levant region right now, and that despite their diametric opposition on everything else, this single common ground could unite them in a very formidable fashion against the interests of the chosen people in their tribal homeland.
We're going to do that. We have to look at what will actually work, and that will not work. You cannot go through a whole country and start finding their hospital records to know where they can. Yeah, I mean, it would just kill the country. It would become an authoritarian mess.
The only way to save this country is by being authoritarian. Otherwise, we lose this country. We lose it to all of these immigrant groups at the end of the day. And that, to me, is unacceptable. I don't care who gets upset about it. I don't care who gets caught in the crossfire. I don't care who cries about it. I don't care who has to get deported. Yeah. I want my country back. My people have the right to exist. That's my line.
Well, I think that my people are English as well. And I think that I'm British, or... and these are very difficult to define. I know there'll be a lot of people screaming at me in the comments.
I don't think you are. I think you're Jewish, and
but
we're distinct, different groups.
But I'm not going to Israel.
If I had power, mate, you would be.
Yeah, but I don't speak their language.
It doesn't matter. You
don't like the heat.
It doesn't matter.
I feel my name's Andrew.
Goldstein. Andrew Goldstein, you'd fit in, mate.
Well, it's not. Goldstein is a name that our name would have been a kind of Central European name. I don't even know now. It would have been that because the British they changed a lot of difficult names from like Poland to names they could understand. So they just gave us names like Goldstein
and then obviously you changed all of those after the war to try and blend in wherever you were.
Assimilation.
Trying to.
Yeah, as much as you can. And that's what they should be doing. Look,
but here's the thing, right? People do try to assimilate. There are groups in this country that do try to assimilate, but they're still clearly distinctly foreign, whether they try to or not.
Well, I don't think that's the case personally. Like the people I know who are of Indian heritage and those kinds of things, they may have slightly different, maybe some historical precedents and cultures and things from their family that they still engage in at home. That's how I think it should be. We've always had some sort of mix. There would be Catholics and Church of England or Protestants. There's always going to be that kind of ethnic differences. And look, that led to fucking war, so there will always be those kinds of issues. These people, and I do think that in your world you'd get it, even if you did get it to this kind of just white English people left, there'd be other things that you'd argue about and go, well, we're in this tribe and you're in that tribe.
Yeah, but that's the nature of people, though. There will always be distinct, different area groups, but at least we're our own people fighting amongst our own, rather than fighting amongst all of these hostile tribes that shouldn't even be here in the first place.
Regarding Andrew's statement about him being afraid of the increase in authority of the state, you don't need to increase the authority of the state. The state is already deeply, deeply authoritative. Right now, the target of that authority is the nation. It's the actual ethnic group that actually evolved in the British Isles. It's the English, it's the Scottish, it's the Welsh. So the magnitude of the authoritarian behavior, it's already too much. And right now it's being pointed against its own people, the actual ethnic groups that built the state in the first place. What Stephen suggests doesn't even entail increasing the magnitude of authority for any of these mechanisms of power within the state. It simply entails pointing those mechanisms in that authority at foreigners who have invaded the land itself.
Going around in circles talking about the same nonsense of values and anyone can be British and let's just stop the boats. None of those talking points solve any of the problems we face.
Nationalism would. Pride in our country would change things drastically.
There is pride in our country.
There needs to be real pride. People need to come over here, land from whatever
place
they come
nobody
from.
needs to come over
those
here.
Who are here, sorry. Those who are here already need to be told, hey,
to go home.
This is a fantastic country. This has every opportunity for you, but you've got to work with the local people, as I would expect you to do if you went to another country.
Bit of a Freudian slip there on Andrew's part. You've got this one group of people who want multicultural states everywhere other than their own ethno state.
You are of the place you are from. I get it, but I also don't think we can become authoritarian and start kicking people out.
Well, we can. You just don't want us to.
No. I think the liberties that we have and that we've had in the 1900s have pretty much never existed beforehand anywhere in the world before the kind of 1900s. Being able to own a house, be yourself, be ideally safe from police intrusion, although that's less and less with regards to free speech because we are becoming authoritarian, and we have to push back against authoritarianism on any side. And that definitely comes from like the thought police. You don't want any more of them, but it also comes from the idea of being able to go into people who've never committed a crime and kick them out of the country that their parents and their grandparents were born in. All of that, if you want that authoritarianism, you have to know from history that the other side comes with it. That side of free speech, that side of people being able to just be who they are and hang out and whatever. Police start coming in and it goes to shit. It's happened time and time again. It would happen here.
And the alternative is the rapes, the murders of our people, the demographic replacement, the complete destruction of our identity and who we are as a people. The options, there's no middle ground on this. You get one or the other.
The middle ground is a very, very strong sense of national pride.
The middle ground is slow replacement.
I don't think so.
And slowly changing the demographic, but slowly enough that people are okay with it.
You are right. I was going to say this before. There is a point that white people will one day not exist. That is just a fact, and probably true of Ashkenazi Jews as well.
But there are ways to prevent this. You create the homelands that we have now already, and you secure that, and you keep that. Then you can prevent that from ever happening.
Yeah. I think it's going to happen.
The facts that you're okay, like
I'm not okay, but I don't like it. I don't like it.
People brush it off as if it's not a huge issue, right? But the fact is, it's massive. Yeah. If there's no white people, that's like that's a genocide ultimately.
So there you basically have it, kind of all the usual suspects at this point. Hey, I'm one of you. Hey, we should be multicultural. Hey, we should go extinct. Hey, if we do go extinct, I've got this escape hatch. I will no longer be one of you. I'll have my own ethno state to escape to, but I am one of you right now, and we should definitely just go extinct, and we should definitely be multicultural. I hope you're okay with that. Why can't you understand that? Why aren't you more empathetic? This is the same exact rhetorical attack vector that's used in every single Western nation. It's just on repeat at this point. So nothing new to see here, but I thought that Steve just did a really great, straightforward job of stating his points, and I really enjoyed this interview. I hope you enjoyed it too. I hope you enjoyed the commentary, and if you liked what you saw and what I had to say, please consider hitting the like button, subscribe, and helping this channel grow.